It's July 3rd, 2003 in Iraq. Just another routine day after the fall of Baghdad. I was a young captain in an area reconnaissance unit, and my mission that night was to run a 2-helicopter team into Fallujah in support of an infantry unit. It was about 9 p.m. We had already met with the unit to discuss our plan, and we were just landing in the forward refueling point within the city limits to take on some fuel and ammo before we began the start time. As the air commission commander, I sat on the left seat of the helicopter, my job being to run the mission. My partner and longtime pilot in command sat in the right seat of the helicopter, his job being to fly the aircraft. Kind of important separation of duties when you're flying a 5,000-pound machine that defies the laws of physics to actually fly, and people have the gall to actually shoot at you. Now, if you know anything about Iraq, it's a wee bit hot there, and it's also a wee bit sandy. Not a good mix for a single-engine helicopter that really doesn't like to fly when you got those two things in combination. We were ready for takeoff, and my partner set up to do what we call a running takeoff, best method to achieve lift during these kinds of conditions. The area we were working in was relatively small, given that we were right in the city limits and we had this makeshift fence around us, but it was nothing we hadn't done many times before, so no big deal for us. As my partner began takeoff, I started watching the altimeter as I always did. 8 foot, 12 foot, 8 foot. Quickly glanced at my partner, trying to figure out why he was decreasing power. But he wasn't. In fact, he was pulling power with everything he had, and I knew by the look on his face that we were about to crash. Now, if you've ever been in a crash, you know those seconds feel like eternity. And for us, that eternity was in complete darkness because we had sand swirling all around us. Just imagine for a second. You're in a war zone. You know you're about to crash in a helicopter. You can't see a thing. And you know your fate's no longer in your hands at that point. How'd you feel? If you indulge me for just a second, I'd like to ask all of you to close your eyes as I describe the crash, and don't open them till I ask you to. You begin to feel the aircraft spinning out of control, spinning wildly around, forwards, backwards, left and right. Although you can't see anything with the sand flying about in the open cockpit, you can hear the loud noises of the multiple warning alarms going off all at once as the aircraft thrashes about. Suddenly, the helicopter spins a 180 and swings hard to the left. Next, you feel a hard jolt as the helicopter hits something on your side and then rolls to where you're virtually horizontal to your left, shoulders merely inches off the ground. With the cyclic control stick beaten mercilessly between your legs and the aircraft shaking hard, you feel the aircraft roll back to the right, bringing you mostly vertical again. But then the vibrations start moving from hard to extremely violent. You literally feel as though your teeth are coming loose in your mouth. And for the first time, you really think you may not make it out of this. At that same instance, you feel the vibrations you realize the vibrations caused by the blades beating against something, and instinctively crouch towards the middle of crouch down towards the middle of the cockpit, knowing those blades were going to eventually sever and could possibly be hurled into the cockpit at you and your partner. As you crouch towards the middle of the cockpit, you feel your partner's arm, and you grab onto each other, waiting for whatever end's going to come. And then, the helicopter starts becoming still. The engines start becoming softer and softer, and all of a sudden, the sand kind of settles around us and we can see again. Open your eyes, please. And this is where I have a picture of my crash. And this is what we found ourselves in. The aircraft was upright, as you can see, thanks to a small berm we hit. And miraculously, we were unharmed, save for a few bruises and a headache from hell. As the dust settled and I slowly looked around, I could see parts of the aircraft scattered all about, but the body had remained intact, protecting us. As if it were yesterday, I still remember reaching for my knee pad that was attached to my leg, undoing it, laying it up in the dashboard as I had done many times before, and being really surprised that it was no longer there after a second. In my days, I had not realized that our windshield was no longer there. About an hour later, a black helicopter arrived to recover us. As I approached the helicopter, I glanced at the pilots and realized that one of the pilots was my best friend. I stopped for a second. She looked at me. She leaned over, gave the other pilot the controls, and opened her door. I walked over to her, and I just put my head in her lap, and because it was at that moment what had happened really sunk in for me. 13 years later, I stand here before you, and now there's days where I'm frustrated because I'm stuck in traffic, or I'm having one of those bad days that we all know about, and I have to stop and remind myself that this isn't a bad day, that there are many of my military brothers and sisters right now that would give anything to have the day I'm having. So you ask, best day ever? When I get to walk away from this, you bet it is. Thank you.